Today on the compliance tip of the day, we're going to look at some current M&A issues under the FCPA from the domestic perspective. The compliance tip of the day. This is the podcast where we bring you daily insights and practical advice on navigating the ever-evolving landscape of compliance requirements. Whether you're a seasoned compliance professional or just starting your journey, my aim in this podcast is to provide you with a bite-sized, actionable tip to help you stay on top of your compliance game. And now I'd like to say a few words about the latest podcast on the Compliance Podcast Network, AI Today in 5 with 5. Thrilled to announce the inaugural episode of my latest podcast series, AI Today in 5. I wanted to do a short curated set of stories and news stories about AI for the compliance professional and the greater business professional. You can check it out on Megaphone, the Compliance Podcast Network, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or Apple, or wherever great podcasts are listened to. Check out AI Today in 5. We conclude our week-long exploration of the ROI of compliance by taking a look at the difference in how a CFO and a CCO view risk and what it means for compliance budgeting. The bottom line is that a finance professional will view things differently from that of a compliance professional. This is important because there really is a different mindset, or at least a different lens, that a corporate finance function brings, separate and apart from the compliance function lens. In the finance game, people make massive bets, investing hundreds of millions or even billions of dollars on acquisitions with no real certainty around how things will play out. If you do not know how a market will disappear, if the historical growth is going to repeat in the future, if your margins are going to improve to justify a huge purchase price. Investment committees are really about pushing on these assumptions and saying, do we really feel good about how we assume things are going to play out? This is about getting comfortable with the level of uncertainty about predicting the future and making the bet that foundationally many companies build assumptions on. Compliance professionals either believe or perceive to believe that a company's bottom line can be improved by either being less risky or managing risk better. However, from the finance perspective, this comes across as fewer expenses, fewer risks of fines and penalties, and things like that can get better by growth and improvement. This means simply not more revenue, but becoming more efficient and even attracting better talent. Of course, less risk can mean less upside, and many finance professionals are used to jumping onto both sides that can kind of gain and loss. That means revenue / growth, expense costs. That's versus expense costs, rather. However, as a compliance professional, you can realize that finance professionals are trained to look at the downside, and if you allow to reframe your perspective and your approach. But it's really about being opportunistic. Your opportunity looking at what the risk landscape can be for those not seen before. This is a critical insight, starting with the 2020 ECCP and up through 2024. It's become paramount that a CCO should have access to data across your organization. Well, think about this in terms of your ability to manage risk. If you tie this with some of the other concepts we've talked about this week about the extension of compliance across the business landscape and the enhancement of value, you can begin to see how a reframing or reshaping of the risk algorithm, at least in your head, can lead to a greater ROI for compliance and hopefully for you, greater budgeting monies available. So what are today's 3 key takeaways? Number 1, CFOs and CCOs look at things very differently. 2, if you reframe your approach, your perspective and approach, it will allow you to, once again, see things very differently. And 3, break down those data silos and use that data from your compliance and risk management to increase the efficiency of your compliance program and the ROI of your company. One of the things that I'm happy to do for you, the compliance profession, is if you have a question or a series of questions you would like some compliance tips on, I'm happy to take any requests that you might want, certainly anonymize them, and give you a quick tip, either one quick tip or maybe a week's worth of quick tips. So if you have any tips you want about your compliance program, you can shoot me an email at tfox@tfoxlaw.com. This podcast was created and produced